with a joyful grin. Ego knit, our hearts unite. Founders of love shining bright. We're Team Weird, and that's alright. Peculiar souls dancing in his light.
Never really just go, oh, I'm too tired, I'm not going to work, because then we wouldn't get paid. But we do that to church. For me, it's just a commitment, knowing that Sundays is God. No matter how tired, no matter how sick, no matter how overwhelmed I am, Sunday is God's day, because that's where I get recharged. And that means that I am there helping set up, and that I am sitting in and praying for people, that I am doing whatever I need to do. Sometimes I'm all in and I'm doing everything and you don't need anyone else, and other times I just need to take a break. But that is just relying on your community around you, being open and honest that you aren't at your best today and you need help, and then also just being consistent is realizing that it is the foremost. It is the first thing you should be doing, giving it to God. We are all serving God, so serving God in his house, wherever you are placed, should be number one priority for that day that you are there.
That's such a great way to look at it, keeping that commitment and remembering that it's a place where we get recharged and connected. All right, let's move on to the next question.
Yep, waiting for the next question.
Sure thing. Here's the next one. Question 16, lack of clear goals. How do you find clarity and set clear goals for yourself when you feel uncertain?
I think when I'm uncertain, then I'm not clear on the goals. So again, no clarity means that you haven't refined it enough. God hasn't refined it enough, that it hasn't been through the fire enough. I have a lot of ideas and apps that we are building Nova, but none of them have been refined to the point of, yep, this is the one that we're going forward. And I'm not rushing it. I think just waiting on God, remembering that your timing isn't his timing, and that when it's time to launch that thing and set that goal, that it can happen in an instant. So I think just doing what you know you need to do. So today I could focus on all the things that I think I have to do to realize goals and get them out of the way, or I can realize that I can just focus on today, which is just going to work and whatever calls or messages come my way, dealing with it when I have time, and everything will be okay with doing that way. So I think clarity in goals and setting goals comes from being patient and refining them over time.
Absolutely. Patience and allowing things to unfold in God's timing is such a great way to find that clarity. It's all about taking it one step at a time. All right, let's move on to the next
question, please.
Sure thing. Question 17, eating habits conflicting with faith. How do you navigate situations where your eating habits might feel at odds with your faith or values?
I have that problem at the moment. I know that my body is a temple of the Holy Spirit, that it is a walking, living church, that I worship or praise to God, my body and what I do with it, but then I still go out and get lollies and caffeine. It is at odds with God, but it's just working to be better a little bit each day. So if it conflicts with Christianity, which it can only really be like gluttony, eating bad and not caring, or when you're fasting you struggle with that, whatever you're fasting, but those things just have to be taken to God. If it's conflicting with your spiritual life and beliefs, then obviously it's something that has to be dealt with.
Absolutely, and taking those things to God and working on them step by step is definitely the way to go. All right, let's keep going with the next question.
Yep, waiting on the next question.
All right, here comes the next one. Question 18, spiritual doubt. How do you handle moments when you experience doubts in your faith?
Spiritual doubts.
No worries. Whenever you're ready to
Nova, shush. So, spiritual doubts. When I'm doubting what's going on, again, it's the enemy. there is no doubt in God. God brings the spirit of joy, peace, love. He doesn't bring the spirit of confusion or doubt. So if you're doubting something, take a beat, digest it, take it to God, and He will confirm it in the right time. If you're doubting, it's not God.
That's such a great reminder, recognizing that those doubts aren't from God and bringing everything back to Him for clarity and peace. All right, let's move on to the next question.
Yep, waiting for the next one.
All right, here's the next one. Question 19, procrastination and self-care. How do you overcome procrastination when it comes to taking care of yourself?
I think procrastination in general is my thing. I do things better last minute because it's the way I'm designed, which is untrue, but it's what I've told myself and what I've owned. So I have to remove myself from that identity that I'm not a procrastinator, that doing small things over time is better, and that includes self-care. So if you struggle to, I don't know, fold your clothes once a week, then do a little bit every single day. I am not perfect, I am getting better at this, but it's like doing it bit by bit. And my mum always said, how do you eat an elephant? And I would be like, oh, why do you say that? But it's true. How would you eat an elephant if you had to eat an elephant? You would eat it bit by bit. When you got hungry, you would take a bite. And that just means that when something seems overwhelming, whether it's self-care or whatever it is, and procrastinating, then just break it down into small attainable steps or bites.
That's such a great analogy and a perfect way to look at it. Taking things one step at a time definitely makes it all more manageable. All right, let's move right along to the next question.
Waiting for the next question. Again, Nova, can you please stop saying let's move on to the next question and then not reading out the next question? Just read out the next question, please.
Got it. I'll go straight to the next question. Struggling with body image. How do you handle moments when you find yourself struggling with body image?
I think this is the same one of reflection on yourself. So I would remove all the stuff that's telling you that you don't look the way you want to look. I think the social media and the natural and marketing has made us all feel like we are unworthy. Even the people that are on billboards or that have the perfect looks or physiques have insecurities. I was sponsored by companies and taking photos and doing all these things and essentially being paid to take photos, and my insecurities at the time were heavy and thick and hard. I didn't like the way I looked. Someone else did, but it's not. You're always going to have those issues or problems if you surround and let that into your mind. So just block it out. Cut yourself off from all those things that are telling you. And if you discover something or someone that is doing it, just block them. Block that for a while.
That's such an important approach. Focusing on what God says about us and removing those negative influences can really help with body image struggles. All right, let's keep going with the next question.
I'm waiting on you to read the next question.
Got it. Here's the next one. Question 21, fear of failure. How do you deal with the fear of failure when you're pursuing something important?
Oh, I have failed so many times. If you want to jump across to the Instagram, you can see my failures. They are thick and fast. Over my 37 years, I have had 50 plus failures, whether it's business, whether it's life, whether it's relationships. I have failed constantly, but the fear of failure is not something God has given us. He hasn't given us the spirit of fear. Obviously, if things don't work out, sometimes it hurts. I'm going through a liquidation and a company failure, and I thought that was my dream and my company, but I can see what it was and what it became, and God removed it for a reason. So fear of failure or not success is from the world, not from God. If it's from God and for you, He will send the people. He will make a way when there is no way. So I rebuke the fear of failure for anyone facing it.
That's a really powerful perspective, and it's so important to remember that God can use every experience, even the ones that feel like failures, for something good. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next question.
Hi Nova, what question are we up to now?
We're currently on question number 22, so let's keep the momentum going. Here comes the next question.
Let's do 22, 23, 24, and 25, and then close it up.
Sounds like a plan. Let's go through the next few questions. Question 22, feeling unworthy of growth. How do you handle moments when you feel unworthy of personal or spiritual growth? Question 23, financial constraints for health resources.
Growth, I would say growth mindset of the natural is rebuked by the enemy. That you are always spiritually growing if you are praying and spending time with God, and growing in the natural, same thing. So that is not from God, that is from the enemy. Lean into God. Nova, what's question 23?
Absolutely, leaning into God is key. Here's question 23 again. Question 23, financial constraints for health resources. How do you manage staying healthy when finances are tight?
The way to do stuff, so financial provision doesn't necessarily run into health provision. Sometimes you can feel like, oh, I don't have money to go to the gym. Going for a walk is just as adequate as going for a gym. You might have to walk longer or eat less, but that's one way to get around it. If you can't buy foods, there are always foods you can buy, or food banks, or places you can go. There is always ways, but maybe you need to share with your community and people so that they can help. Don't be afraid to ask for help financially if you need it.
That's such a practical and encouraging approach. There's always a way to take care of our health, and reaching out for support is so important. All right, let's move on to question 24.
I'm waiting for question 24.
All right, here it is. Question 24, negative thought patterns. How do you work on overcoming negative thought patterns when they arise?
So I learned this good trick from one of our head pastors, Pastor Sam from Planet Shakers, and it was the daily dump. There is a podcast on the podcast list of, I think it's called Daily Dump, not sure what episode it is, but it's essentially taking all this stuff out in a journal or taking it to God at any moment it happens. So I wouldn't suggest putting that negative cycle on someone else, because that's not their burden to carry or fix. But in writing it out, what actually happens is, so I write out all the negative emotions, negative thoughts, negative things, and then what does God say about them? So I'll cross it out and then say what the opposite is, or what God says about it. And often by the time writing the negative things, they just seem so silly and insignificant that they're out of my mind. And then writing the positive things puts it in, and then I can start journaling or doing my devotional. So for me, to break negative thought patterns, I generally list or spit them out to God. Like, God, I am feeling this, turn it around. When I want to be feeling this. And in those moments, it breaks the pattern. So pray, devotional, journal.
That's such a powerful technique, and it's amazing how just getting those thoughts out and replacing them with what God says can make such a difference. All right, let's move on to question 25.
Yep, waiting for question 25.
All right, here we go. Question 25, lack of direction. How do you handle moments when you feel like you're lacking direction in life?
Take it to God. When you're feeling erratic and everywhere, God doesn't give the spirit of confusion. He gives it the spirit of joy, peace, love. If you are flailing and going around in circles, take it to God. God will sort it out. God will direct you.
Absolutely. Trusting God to provide that direction and leaning into His guidance can really help us find our way. Great job making it through these questions. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like to dive into.
Nova, can you put a pin in that we're up to 25, and then I'll close this one out with family. I love you. God bless you. Remember, you are engineered by the founder. Keep on shining your light because the world needs it. Keep on sending in those questions, and remember to support us here and help this ministry grow. Share, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. The more you support us, the more we can give energy to this and make it grow and grow it together. It's about community, it's about helping, it's about sharing as I grow. I hope you're enjoying it. As I said, God loves you, God bless you, and we'll see you on the next one.
Got it. Here's the next one. Question 15, inconsistent church involvement. How do you stay consistent with being involved in church activities or community?
I think it's hard again that we tend to get tired and pull out of the thing that only really matters. We wouldn't.
World that wants to fit in. We stand out with a joyful grin. Ego knit, our hearts unite. Founders of love shining bright. We're team.